more information, contact your local MDA.
Good morning, Washington! And now this.
Hello, I'm Gordon Peterson. There was a double suicide. It took place before horrified spectators in a Montgomery County courtroom today. Husband and wife took poison just before they were sentenced on a marijuana charge. Officials say hope is fading for recovery of 5 miners trapped below the ground in Madison, West Virginia. An explosion in the mine. Congresswoman Gladys Spellman is off the critical list, now breathing on her own. Please join us at 11.
Wow. Why would somebody take poison on a marijuana charge? I don't know. Didn't seem like that big of a deal. But then again, that was what, when was that? Early 90s? Something like that. Good day. It's the 14th of March, 2011. And this is Dave TV. Got a couple interesting things to show you today. This is a radio that I picked up when I was in England. 1974, in my high school Latin class, I went to a trip of Roman Britain for 2 weeks with Mrs. Sleeper's Latin class, and there were some other kids from the Mid-Atlantic that went with us. And we went to London. We went to Brussels, then landed. We went to New York, landed in Brussels, then went to London, and then spent 2 weeks driving around London in a big coach with a crazy Cockney coach driver and an old lady tour guide. It was quite a lot of fun, actually, and had a really good time. We looked at all the Roman ruins in England, everything from Stonehenge to Hadrian's Wall up in Scotland, near Scotland, and spent a couple days in London. And I was a radio freak even back then, and I wanted to get a radio when I was over there. So I picked this up. It's a Philips model, and it still works, although I don't have batteries in it at the moment. But it has all the old British, European stations on it. BBC Three, Hilversum, which was Holland, BBC Wales, Scottish. You could listen to Paris. Now, the MW is medium wave, which is our AM, which is standard AM band, but it's listed in meters and not kilohertz. And then LW is the low AM band that they use in Europe. They don't use it for commercial broadcasting over here. So, quite neat. If you look there on 208 meters, which is about 1440 kilohertz, is Luxembourg, Radio Luxembourg, which back in the late 60s, early 70s was a top 40 radio station that was broadcast in English with British disc jockeys. Radio 208, the Big L, Radio Luxembourg. It was a fantastic station. It was on the air in the evenings, and it was broadcast out of Luxembourg. I believe they did have studios in London, or at least at one time they did, because at the time the BBC didn't broadcast top 40 rock and roll radio, as we all know. They had BBC The Light program, which was middle of the road music, and they had classical and they had talk, but they didn't seem to want to broadcast rock and roll in the early days of rock. So you had a lot of pirate radio stations popping up, offshore pirates. Of course, that movie Pirate Radio, which came out a year or two ago, good movie to get a little bit of flavor of what that was all about. And of course, some of the European stations like Radio Luxembourg came in. And Luxembourg, Big L Radio Luxembourg had quite a large audience in London and throughout England. I believe it broadcast something like 2 million watts. The top power for radio stations, AM radio stations in America is 50,000 watts. So we're talking 2 million watts. And that thing really, blasted London. So, that's what they listened to then. And then eventually the BBC said, gee, maybe we ought to start putting some rock music on. So they started BBC One. And that was started, I guess, in the early 70s, or I don't know exactly the date on that. But even so, it still shared time on the FM frequency there with Radio 2. It didn't become a full-blown station even on FM for many, many more years than that. But some interesting history there. And next time you're at your video store, don't forget to pick up Out of the Past, well, the edition that I did back in, I guess I taped this with Lee Shepard, great Lee Shepard, there in early 2010, right before the big massive snowfall. And so next time you're in your favorite video store, if it hasn't closed already, you might want to pick this up, or you can go watch this on the internet. I think it's still up there. Out of the Past has a website. It's something like ootp.something. I'm not sure if it's .org or net or whatever, but go to a search on Google for Out of the Past, Washington, D.C. or something, and you'll find it and see if it's up there. But if you find my show, it's cool and it's good to watch. And in fact, it still runs on public access television, Channel 10 here in Northern Virginia. I still get people that stop me and say, "Hey, Dave," or "Hey, I saw you on TV last night," which is kind of weird. I didn't know that public access got that many viewers. Today's edition of Dave's Record Collection, we're into the J's today. Joy Division. This is probably one of the coolest album covers ever. And this is another cool album. This is Joy Division songs that were performed by bands other than Joy Division, such as Moby. And this is their album with their one great big hit on it, She's Lost Control. Well, no, they had two great big hits. Love Will Tear Us Apart and She's Lost Control, right? Love Will Tear Us Apart again. And their greatest hits and this one. Anyhow, it's something you don't hear much Joy Division on the radio these days. And then, of course, Ian Curtis, the lead singer of the band, hanged himself. He was suffering from epilepsy and, I guess, depression. And then the band reformed as New Order. And even though they were still like kind of glummy, depressive band, they still they added a really cool kind of a swagger to it. And one of my favorite bands of all time. I love New Order. And we will get into more about New Order in a future episode of Dave TV. Looking at the big headlines today, the U.S. House yesterday has voted to defund National Public Radio. Now, this would be a bigger story if the Senate was also controlled by Republicans, which it ain't. So the House bill will go to the Senate and probably die there. And even if the House was controlled by Republicans, which it ain't, it would go to the president, who's a Democrat, who would probably veto it. So there's no chance this bill's going to make it anywhere. But it is a warning to NPR that, hey, you know, if the next major election, the House goes to the Republicans and the House stays Republican and the Senate goes to Republicans, then NPR could be in big trouble, at least fundraising-wise, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and all of that. So we shall see. Also, NPR news today, a man from Maine, the state of Maine, has been jailed on federal charges that he threatened to kill or harm two hosts of NPR's All Things Considered show. He made threats against Melissa Block and Guy Raz using the Contact Us form on npr.org. You know, don't do that if you're going to send, you know, they can trace your, first of all, don't make threats to anybody, especially, you know, on the internet, but, you know, the guy's got some problems and hopefully he will get some treatment. Whoa. Okay, folks, that's, let's see, I wanted to show you one more thing here. Yeah, let's widen this out a little bit here. There we go. And plop it around like this. And there he is, Chris Core. Just wanted to say hi to Chris. He bought an ad on our website. There he is. Public speaker, professional MC, political analyst. Core values on WTOP and The Examiner. And he does a lot of work for POTUS. That's the Sirius XM politics channel. That I forget the number of that, but do check it out. So Chris is out there, and remember he used to be on WMAL for many, many years. He used to do the afternoon show with Bill Trumbull, and then after that ended, he went and did that late morning show for many years on WMAL that is currently inhabited by Chris Plant, who is kind of a nut job. I love listening to Chris Plant. He is very amusing. He thinks that the left is just one giant entity, that everybody in the left is like this giant, evil, organized empire that is just out to one giant entity called the left. And it's all marches in lockstep. It's kind of funny to listen to, you know, his little delusional ways like that. You know, if you ever go to a Democratic Party convention sometimes, he might find out that maybe the left is a whole diverse mess and can't get anything done most of the time anyhow. All right, folks, that's Dave TV for today, 14th of March. Do have a good weekend. I'll probably be back to do another episode sometime this weekend. And that's that. So have a good one. And don't forget to stay